Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about NestJS versus Express in 2026. Let's get started. So every Node.js developer eventually faces this question, NestJS or Express? And most people answer it wrong. Not because they pick like a wrong framework, but they are asking the wrong question. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to make this decision, right away. Let's get into it. So, the question is not like a which one is better. Here's the thing that nobody tells you. This is not a debate about which framework is technically superior, and it never was. Express gives you freedom, it's a tool like a blank canvas, and NestJS gives you structure, it's a framework like a blueprint. And the real question is, given your team size, your project scope, and your timeline, which one fits your situation best? That's what we are solving today. So Express was created in 2010 by Holo Chuk, and its philosophy is that simple. Get out of the way. You write like 10 lines of code and you have working API. No enforced folder structure, no built-in validation, no dependency injection, just thin, unopinionated layer sitting on top of Node.js HTTP module. That simplicity is exactly why it still gets like a 35 million downloads every single week. Now let's talk about NestJS. NestJS scalability through structure. NestJS came out like in 2017 by Camille, and it took completely different philosophy. It has predictability and developer experience. If you ever used like Angular on the front end, NestJS will feel immediately familiar. You have like modules that contain controller that use services. The framework handles all the wiring, the lifecycle, the dependencies resolution. You just write the business logic. See this diagram. Yep. Module wraps controller, controller wraps services. This is entirely mental model of NestJS. And those 6 features on the right, dependency injection, decorators, guards, interceptors, modules, native TypeScript, these are not like optional add-ons. They are baked in from day one. The secret, NestJS doesn't replace Express. Here's the thing that most people completely misses. And this is probably most important slide in this whole video. NestJS doesn't replace Express. It builds on top of it. By default, when you run NestJS app, Express is running underneath. NestJS is just an architectural layer on top. So you are not like abandoning like 14 years Express ecosystem when you choose NestJS. You are like taming it with enterprise guardrails. So Node.js runtime at the bottom and Express engine in the middle and abstraction layer on top. And if you want like even more performance, you can swap Express for Fastify with single config change and the best of both worlds. So let's move to the next slide and let me put the comparison side by side so it's crystal clear. Architecture, Express lets you decide everything. NestJS enforces a pattern. TypeScript optional in Express, first class native in NestJS. Dependency injection doesn't exist in Express, but it's built in NestJS. Boilerplate Express has almost none. NestJS has medium amount of modules and DTOs. Team size, Express fits solo and small teams. NestJS shines at like a medium and enterprise team. Learning curve, Express is too low, NestJS is medium to high. None of these are good or bad on their own. They are like trade-offs. And the right trade-off depends entirely on your situation. So let's talk about like agility and chaos spectrum here. So Express strengths are real. Total flexibility, MVC, functional, like flat files, whatever structure you want, you can do it. A 14-year ecosystem with battle-tested packages for literally like everything. And it's perfect for serverless and Lambda functions because it's minimal overhead. Let's talk about weaknesses. But the weaknesses are just as real. I have seen Express codebase with 10 developers turn into absolute nightmare. Every developer organized differently, no enforced pattern. What starts as freedom becomes chaos at scale. And manual dependency management leads to tightly coupled code that's nearly impossible to test. Freedom is also a burden, remember that. So let's see what NestJS gives. NestJS, like order versus overhead spectrum here. NestJS strengths are powerful, universal consistency. Every NestJS app looks like the same. New developer joins the team. They are like productive on day one because they already know where everything lives. Testing becomes like a trivial because of dependency injection. You mock service, test the controller in complete isolation, and native microservices support for TCP, Redis, Kafka. It's all built in. Let's talk about the weaknesses. Those magic decorators make debugging hard when something goes wrong under the hood. It's like overkill boilerplate for simple CRUD app, and the cold start time are noticeable in serverless environment. But here's the honest truth. If you stick with it like through that painful first week of learning dependency injection and decorators, the predictability pays you back for years. Good. Let's move to the next slide and let's take a look at the real world performance. Let's talk numbers because developers love benchmarks. So raw throughput Express handles around like 22,000 requests per second, and NestJS Express adapter gets about like 19,000. But NestJS on Fastify adapter, like it handles 28,000, actually faster than plain Express. And the cold starts through this where like Express dominates here, like 80 milliseconds versus like 200 and 800 milliseconds for NestJS. If you are building like serverless function on AWS Lambda or Cloudflare workers, or Express wins here clearly. But here is the reality check. You will hit your database bottleneck long before framework throughput becomes your problem. For 99% of application, performance difference is irrelevant. The only place it genuinely matters is serverless and edge deployment. So let's talk about like market dynamics in 2026. All right, let's make this decision simple. Ask yourself one question. What are you building? Quick prototype, solo developer, serverless deployment, choose Express, or honestly in 2026, like consider only like Express for this requirement because it gives you like simplicity with better performance. If you are like growing like startups, SaaS projects, team of 3 or more, long-term maintenance, choose NestJS, no question. If you are building like microservices architecture, it depends. Simple proxy or route service, like you can go with Express. If you have like complex business logic service, like you may go with NestJS. So let's talk about like a decision framework here. Here's the bottom line. For learning, start with Express. It teaches you how HTTP actually works under the hood. That knowledge makes you a better developer no matter what framework you use later. For enterprise, standardize on NestJS. The team alignment alone, the out-of-the-box TypeScript support, the predictable structure, it saves hundreds of hours in refactoring down the road. Start with Express to build a feature, move to Next.js to build a company. If this video helped you, the next one is about how GWT authentication actually works under the hood. Link is up there, and if you want to see me build full Nest.js SaaS from scratch, subscribe because that series are coming. See you in the next one.